Welcome to Bass University Live. Good to be back, Riz. We've been down at the Classic for man, it seems like forever, but it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. We had a week off from the live show there, but it's definitely coming back with a bang. We got a great guest today. Hunter Shryock, he's a Bass U guy. He's been speaking with us now, Pete, for the last two years. He's done seminars with us, and he's really done well at that role as an instructor for us. But that's not the only thing he's been doing well at. He's really been killing it out on the trail with the Elite Series, and we had a super cool seminar with him this year that was focused around fishing to your strengths, and so to see Hunter go out and fish to his strengths at the Classic and have such a great finish, it's going to be a fun one to talk to him.
Yeah, looking forward to talking to Hunter, and it's old school, like we say on the thumbnail, flipping a tube of all baits, which was spectacular. Right. And that's going to be awesome. So look forward to that. And we've also got a little bit later in the show, Dylan Nutt on fire. Just won back-to-back Toyota Series events. Also won a nation qualifier, and just red hot, just winning everything on the Tennessee River. And looking forward to, he's probably the hottest in one of the hottest in the sport right now. But want to give a shout out to Easton Fothergill. What a great win. Been on the live show, been through a lot of personal trauma and overcome it, and now sitting at the top of the world of bass fishing. And
on the top.
I was just talking with our Bass U, one of our Bass U OGs, Brooks Parker, and he was playing. They were shooting hoops, him and Easton. Just last night or the night before. Yeah, here's the Classic champ, just getting back to normal life. Yeah. I guess nothing else for one evening,
Getting to it, he not only can win the Classic, he can also get up a jumper from behind the 3-point line, Pete. He's can do it all. He's otherworldly.
Yeah, that was great. Trey McKinney had a great event down at the Classic too, and it was a wonderful Classic, man. Great to be in Texas.
Yep. Shout out to Lee Livesey. He had a great derb as well. Another Bass U guy coming off the seminar season, and he's always a threat down there in Texas. Yep.
It's great to be in the Bass University booth in Texas. How many of our Bass U subscribers? I just want to say thank you to all you guys. Thanks for coming up and saying hi and telling us. It's so rewarding to hear your stories about how you're using Bass U and how it's helping your fishing, things that you like about it, things that you're learning from it. Really appreciate all of you guys. I think Texas is our home base for sure. So it was great to be there and see all you guys. So thanks for stopping by, and thanks to all the new subscribers. Many new subscribers, as we always see at the Classic, getting signed up, wanting to improve their fishing. Glad they're deciding to do it with us. So it was a busy Classic booth for Bass University, and you were busy talking to all the customers, Rich, and as well as doing a lot of content generation. You were busy that week.
Yeah, that's the Classic, man. It's a burn it on both ends kind of week, if there's one way to describe it. But yeah, awesome time talking to all the people that were not only members, already, but talking to new subscribers and just learning about where they fish, what their background in fishing is. It's always super interesting to just learn and talk with people that are like-minded. They're all there for one reason. That's because they like to fish. But yeah, we were super busy shooting seminars as well. We came away from the Classic with 8 new amazing Bass U seminars, and really excited to get these through the editing suite and off the ground for all of our members, because we're taking some really interesting approaches on how to really teach about not only technique specific strategies, but really help our customers understand why certain baits do certain things from all components, from the technical side, from the build, from the way they're designed to everything in between. So stay on the lookout. We got some great seminars coming your way that we shot at the Bassmaster Classic down there at down there in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yep. And saw so many great people that we know and well and love and have worked with forever. The Bass After Dark guys were there. The Traveling Circus, Serious Angler podcast. There was like a podcaster's picnic.
Yeah, there was. Yeah, we had a powwow going on at one point, Pete. It was, it was a full circle in the booth.
Yeah. Some other friends from the show, G Money, stopped by, and it was good to see him and Slick Johnson been on the show. And yes, it was great event at the Classic. I want to give a shout out to Alabama Mike Reed. He took me fishing on Caddo Lake.
Reed.
If I said that correctly, I always mess that name up. But we got to go to Jurassic Park in the cypress trees and catch a few bass. And that was nice. A nice little adventure for me. I heard this more than once. And she's not with us. She's on vacation. But more Jocelyn on the show. People like to hear Jocelyn on the show. So we're going to do that, but she's on vacation this week. Hope you're having a nice time, Josh. And
Arizona.
Justin, of course, was with us all week at the Classic, and I know he's here this morning and pushing the buttons in the background. And Will was in the booth with us again this year. So thank you, Will, for all the work that you do at Bass University, and good luck to your tournaments this year. I saw him. What he said is a pick of an 8-pounder he caught after the Classic.
Yep. Caught a giant one as soon as he left the booth. Basically, just still had Classic dust on his shoulders, and he caught a giant one. So also shout out to Jeff Olson. I drugged that man all the way across the country with me, Pete. Jeff, you did good, man. You did good. I pushed him. I pushed him, Pete, to push past his traveling limits both days, and he did a great job, and he shot all the seminars for us at the Classic. So shout out to you, Jeff. You made it happen.
And it's funny you say, and shout out to Jeff. Thank you, Jeff. And you pushed him. You pushed yourself. What an auspicious start to the trip with a blowout on the Bass University tow vehicle right out of the gate, man.
Yeah, right out of the gate. We'll dive into that a little bit more later. I want to get our people to Hunter, but yeah, we had a little situation at the start of the trip, and I'll be sure to talk about that later on today.
And we survived it, and thrived, and it was great. And what else was great was this guy with a great tournament. So fun to watch, and I know so many people loved it because it was old school flipping and style, and putting some big Texas bass in the boat. Hunter Shryock, thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Couldn't miss it. Rich texted me last night. Like, heck yeah, let's do it. But it was a good week. It was a fun week. One that I didn't really expect, to be honest, the way that it, everything transpired. But yeah, it was fun.
Why didn't you expect it to transpire that way? What'd you see in practice?
Oh, let me go back to the beginning. So when did we have the last Classic there? 2021. I think that's when Hank won it. Yep. So, and that was like, flooded, Ray Roberts had a totally different appearance to it, super high. The bushes were flooded. And going into that event in summer, right? That was post-COVID or whatever. That was like, oh my gosh, this is the perfect tournament for me. You know what I mean? Like, this is what I live for. I'm never probably going to have a bush flipping tournament the rest of my life for the Classic. And I totally just butchered it. Like, I just, I had a lot of regrets about that event, and I wish I could have done it over. Like, day one, I think I was in the top 10. I was like 9th or 10th, maybe 11th. Regardless, like, I had like over 18 pounds. And day two, we had a lightning storm, and that really messed everything up. Kept flipping the same bait I was flipping. I had basically a Berkley pit boss, just larger profile baits, and I never adjusted. Now you fast forward to this year, I go and pre-fish Ray Roberts. The lake is so low. There's nothing in the water relatively close to what we thought it was going to be. I spent all winter getting, working on my forward-facing sonar, and I really thought that going into it, I was going to catch them on a jerkbait there, on a Berkley stunner. Like, that's what my mindset going into it was. Like, it's still cold. Like, they just had snow on the ground a couple weeks before that. I'm going to catch them on a jerkbait. Mm-hmm. And, us anglers, that's how we go into things. Like, we try to have preconceived notions. So day one of practice, I get it, it's cold, windy, and the same way that I saw in pre-fish, like, I went there in December and looked at it, just not a lot of fish. Like, you scan and you look around, and I'm thinking, like, maybe it's just because it's late in the year. Maybe a lot of those fish are out suspended over the channel. I wasn't going to go play around with because I didn't think it was going to be, factor in March. So I'm thinking, it will get better. Well, the half day of practice goes by and I hadn't had a bite, and I'm looking at my active target too the whole time, looking, and just so many trash fish, a lot like a Grand Lake, except, 20% of the bass. And I got back into a shallow pocket, shallow creek little deal, and I'm talking 6 inches of water. I flip up there and I got a bite, and it was 12 inches long, the smallest fish I caught all week. But I'm like, duh. But practice, we had a ton of water that was dirty, and you didn't get very many bites, but it was more like a spinnerbait bladed jig type of deal. Like, you cover water, muddy water, had them up shallow. If you found any piece of cover, that was beyond the normal standing timber line, that's where those fish, were kind of pushed up to. But it wasn't like everywhere. You might get one bite and you fished an entire pocket for a mile and a half, and then you just keep going. Sorry, well, I'm taking over the show. You guys chime in.
That's why we brought you here, man.
Okay. So yeah, it was dirt. Like I said, the dirtier or the further you went back into the creek, the dirtier it got. And I don't know why it was dirty. It wasn't like they had rain before. We all wanted it to rain and wanted it to come up, but I guess the wind and everything had it stirred up. I'm not sure, but I think it was it was the end of day one. I had 2 bites on a spinnerbait on really like a foot of water. You watched it, come up and get the spinnerbait. And I'm like, okay, well, that's a really good sign. And pretty much from there on, I just kind of focused on that, just because I did not like how the forward facing stuff set up, that 5 to 10 foot. I just, too many fish, too many carp, too many drum for me to sit there and try to decipher. But I'm like, we're a week out, right? That's the thing about the Classic, is if I'm already getting a bite a week before the event on a piece of cover, what's going to happen in another week? And really thinking about the group that I'm fishing with, a lot of guys are going to force the forward stuff. And I'm like, if there's only a half dozen to a dozen of us running this shallow stuff, you could make a derby out of it. Now, if it's the other way, if everybody's running it and there's not that much shallow cover in the water, we're all going to cannibalize each other, right? But I kind of just went on the fact that I don't think that many guys were going to get on that because the bites were far and few between. But, at the end of the day, you just need 5. And if you got a bite, it was a dang big one, like a 4 to 6 pound. I did not catch very many fish under 3 pounds in practice, but it was just like, you get 5 bites a day in a 12-hour period. So that took forever, and you're really just wanting to find a place that you got more than 1 bite. So it wasn't just that one piece of cover and that's it. And so I basically found 2 places, one that had grass and one that did kind of had some grass, but it really didn't. And the first place is where John Cox and I both fished. So I pull in there day one, and I thought there was going to be like 4 boats there as a pond. And the only other person that came in there was John, not the person you want to be fishing with in the pond. But it was the only place that I caught more than, like, you know, in a small confined area, caught more than 1 fish, which is, I knew if you could get started with a couple fish, it would be a big deal. Right. And sure enough, I did. I was there with like 3 fish from 9 or 10 pounds. And then immediately caught like a 4.5 pounder after that. So my day one started about as fast as you could start. I felt like all on a bladed jig, just winding. You know, we had wind. It was a reaction bite. And by the end of the day, I ended up catching 3 or 4 more that, you know, 2 big ones, one close to 6, one another 5. And that put me at almost 22 pounds. And like I said, everything on a bladed jig, winding. And day 2, conditions totally flipped. Got split calm. You could tell the water had completely cleaned up. Like the water was cleaning up the entire week, in which you started to notice it, but it's like you're still getting bit on that bladed jig. So it's like it's hard to put it down because you start flipping, dude, it take you forever. You know, you could go through the pocket twice as fast, you know, winding than what you could flipping. And, right. You know, that flipping bite just never really transpired in practice. I think just because it was so dirty, you know, you had to hit it on their head, and there was only a few fish there. So day 2, it was a disaster. As you could imagine, I had 1 bite at about 10:30, is about a 4.5, 5 pounder. Get it to the boat and it comes off. And I'm like, yeah, in a tournament where you're not calling, you know, 4 or 5 pounders. And that's the bite of the day, and I lose it in my arms at the boat. And I'm like, you know, what are you going to do? And internally, the train came off the tracks. I don't think I showed it on camera, but internally I was just like, you know, as we all would be. Yeah. And I just kept pushing it. I felt like Jason Christie at Lake Hartwell that last day when he caught him on a bladed jig so well those first 2 days, and then they just came off of it for whatever reason, you know, and he kept throwing it. And I'm just like, dude, this feels exactly this. Like it just felt stagnant, dead, nothing, you know, it just didn't feel right. And by 12:30, I saw. Go ahead.
Let me ask you, Hunter, because this is the mental side of this game is something that we talk about a lot. You know, we've got a lot of great seminars about it, and like Gerald's PMA seminar is an amazing one. And you're talking about spinning out. You got 0 fish. You have a fish in your hands that you lost it. Like, what were you telling yourself? Like, how did you persist?
Yeah. The good thing was I knew the area that I was in. I'd caught multiple fish that in practice. That was the second area that I felt like was my, you know, the second best area I had. And, you know, to get that bite, it was like, okay, I got the fish to bite. You know what I mean? Like we knew it wasn't going to be hot and heavy, but you can still salvage and get, you know, if they're going to continue to bite, like you could get 3 more bites there. Everything's fine. Right. I fished too many tournaments in March, you know, early spring, pre-spawn, spawn, where you don't have a fish. And then all of a sudden, the end of the day, you only need that hour or 2, and everything looks great. Looks like you really smashed them, when really it was a switch that kind of goes off on the fishery. And I've just done it so many times where it's just like, either I'm going to catch them or I'm not. Like, it's pretty simple. It's more the tournaments when you have a lot of other things to get you distracted, whether that be, you know, oh, I got some forward facing stuff I could go to. Man, I'm an idiot. I should have went and done that. So that's when you really, like, for me, I get distracted. Like, I should have done this, or I should have done that. I got in a bad rotation. But in this tournament, I knew my only chance at doing well was, you know, to keep that bladed jig locked in my hand, because you're catching 4 6-pounders, and if you did it every day, you have a chance. So to me, it made it a lot simpler, right? But yeah, to keep it on, you want to stay positive, obviously, but it's pretty brutal. At the same time, it's just like you're mad at yourself, like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? But the day before, I caught everything that bit, which, it's just one of those things. And I pride myself, we all do, like when I go fishing, even if I'm practicing, I want to catch everything that bites. And it like ticks me off if I don't, because it's like my rod, my line, what was wrong, right? Like everybody has a different setup, but I want to make sure my setup is 100%. So we're batting 100% on game day. So that really frustrated me. Like, and I felt like I rushed the fish. It came off. We got a camera in the boat, Bassmaster Live. We're on Fox, big Fox, and I'm sitting here with 0 fish. And I'm just like, I could go get 2 bites, in the next 20 minutes and everything looks great. Or I could legitimately 0, because there's a lot of guys, good guys, that couldn't catch more than 2 or 3 fish a day. That's just Ray Roberts. That's just the fishery. And really, I found a bedfish at like 12:45, and it was just because I snagged my bait in a tree. And I look over, and I'm just like, duh, you idiot. You know what I mean? Like, they're locking on bed. I think the fish that I'm already catching are already on bed, right? They're just starting to get where they're in that weird, funky mood where they're not reluctant to chase as much. And a lot of those fish, I think a lot of those 4 to 5 pounders were males that I'm catching, like what you would see at Lake Fork. They're just big males. And it's like, oh my gosh, 4.5 pounder, but it's a male. You know what I mean? And it just got to the point where they stopped chasing that bladed jig. And anyhow, I catch that 2.5 pounder, and it's 1 o'clock. It's pushing 1 o'clock in the Classic, and I'm sight fishing a 1 pounder. I'm sorry, a 2 pounder at 1 o'clock. I'm just like, what am I doing? But I'm thinking, if I was in the Elite Series right now, you wouldn't pass this fish up, right? Like, you would go back and catch it because everything matters. And at that point, I was just like, dude, just catch something, right? Just get the train going. Get that bite. I leave. I go back to the area that I lost the 4 or 5 pounder in, and I come up to a tree that I couldn't throw the bladed jig by. And I pitch up there. I catch a 4 pounder, and I'm just like, you idiot. Like the light bulb goes off. And it's not that because I would flip on and off that morning. You know what I mean? Just certain pieces of cover that fit the bill, that looked right, and I never got a bite. But finally, it was like I got that bite in that area, and I'm like, dude, you just got to slow down. Slow down. They're here. You got 2 fish. All you need is 3 bites. And I think I had to check in at 4 o'clock that day. And so that was like 1:30, 1:45, something like that by the time I got that bite. And then it was just like, it all made sense. And in 2 hours, I caught 23 pounds.
Awesome adjustment, And we've seen that. And, that happens so often, but it happened to you in real time where, in the pre-spawn, the fish are biting, you know what I mean? They're chasing and they're aggressive. And then there's a moment where they make that turn to spawn, and they'll bump it, they'll nudge it, they'll do everything but bite it. And that happened to you during the day, like in
right. And it's so tough, everybody's watching. We all know when you catch them on something, it's so hard to put that down. You know what I mean? Like, especially when we had it up to, practice was so far away, but it's really the only thing. And like I said, the flipping bite just really hasn't transpired. You'd get 1 bite, but that would be it. I felt like my odds were better covering the piece of wood that I was fishing, whether that be a standing, timber or a laydown, but also I'm covering the water in between that I'm not seeing any little stick up piece of grass. Right. You know what I mean? You're covering 20 yards at a time instead of just isolated pitches. And that's what kept me wanting to throw that bladed jig, because it's like, dude, when it's a tough tournament, it's hard to beat covering a bunch of water. And a few times throughout the day on an active target, I wouldn't use my active target to necessarily see the fish. I'm looking for other pieces of cover, 2 foot of water, 3 foot of water, didn't matter. And a few times I'd be winding it in my bladed jig and I would see one coming after it. And I'd almost slow it down because I want to kill it, but I'm slowing it down, and that joker come right up to it and then peel off, nothing. That I saw that 2 times on day 2, and I'm just like, I'm just wanting to throw up, because I know what they are, you know.
Yeah,
they're 3.5 to 5.5 pounders. And you know, when I started flipping, I really started to use my active target to look at the trees. And there's, like I said, there's so many carp, so many drum, but every once in a while I would see a dot just locked on the base of the tree. And not that I was flipping and catching them, because you can, you know, everybody, you were seeing it. I was pitching everything regardless, because a 4-pounder can hide on a root base really, really easily. So if you're only looking for the dots, you're missing some fish. But if day 2, when I really started catching them, I started paying attention, and you would see every once in a while one locked on. And that's, so I'm like, yeah, they turned to just being, you know, smack dab on that bed. And it wasn't like you pitched up there and immediately they ran off with it. Some of them did, but it was just one of those deals, just like bed fishing. You flip up there and you drag, and all of a sudden it swims off.
What was the water temperature, Hunter?
So in that area in practice, it was all the way up to 67 to 68 degrees on a Lowrance. So depending on who you talk to, I think all brands vary. So I think Lowrance runs a little warm. So you're looking at 65, and that was in practice, right? You know, days before. By the time the tournament came around, I think when I first came in there, it was 58. Oh. So it had dropped. The temperature had dropped since practice a lot. I think we lost anywhere from 5-7 degrees. Yeah. And I think all that wind, it was sunny, warm, whatever, but the wind had diminished, you know, in the cool nights, had just completely knocked it back. Yeah. So that did not help.
And what did it climb back up to during the tournament? Like at this point, like when the bulb went off, that they were like, okay, they're starting to lock on.
I think they were locked. I think they were locked on before, you know, too. Like they were getting where they were, you know, in that spawn mode. I think the water clarity and stuff too made a difference. When you start getting that cleaner water, and they're getting a really good look at that baited jig, the pressure, you know, we all got to fish the entire lake, like pretty much. Like it's not a big lake, so you give us 4 days of practice, everybody went through the same areas. And I think between that, you know, the water clearing up, they weren't latching on to it as good as what they were in practice. So by day 3, the water temp was up to like 65, 66. I think I just made the video, so I'm pretty sure it was like 65, 66 at about lunchtime. So it was climbing back up, and I felt like each day you think there's a big push. Well, the big push on Ray Roberts is like a trickle, like 2 or 4 fish. You know, so I go back through that area, and I think that was probably the biggest key, was being in a really, really good area, the best area that I had, at the warmest part of the day. And we've all been there. Like you could go, and I did. I went through there. I lost that one on a bladed jig and didn't get another bite. And then I go back in there in the afternoon, and I caught 23 pounds. You know, I ended up losing another 4-something pounder flipping, but I also caught a 6 and a 7-10. So, it was, But going into it, like everybody's asking why the tube, you know, why a tube? And to be honest, it was like, that's just a confidence bait for me. You know, I could have flipped a Berkley Max like a 7 general, Sorry about that. But to me, just think, you know, when I'm trying to generate as many bites as I can, especially at that place. I felt like if you generated bites, the odds are in your favor. You're going to catch some big ones. So whatever that was, if I had to throw a drop shot to generate bites, that's what I was going to do. But I just felt like the tube, especially that little Berkley tube, 3.5 inch, it's still got a wide profile to it. So it's not like a real skinny tube, wide profile. And I've caught so many fish on it throughout years, whether it be in the spring, the fall, it doesn't matter. Like, I just know that if I get it around a bass, it's probably going to eat it. And that's why I wanted to be flipping something that I didn't want to chance, you know, something not eating like a creature hog, which is a little bit bigger, you know, just for whatever reason. I wanted to make anything got it or was going to eat it.
That's great. And that's a great bait to be throwing around spawning fish for that exact reason you're talking about, because they are definitely inclined to eat that bait. But
Right.
but I saw you give some tips on this, and it's a big deal because a lot of people struggle with that historically. Well, people don't flip tubes much anymore, Hunter. You like you're bringing amazing technique back from the dead. It's awesome. And but everybody always struggled with landing, like executing on a fish catch with a tube. What was your secret on getting them to the boat?
So, I mean, it is a fish losing son of a gun. Let's just be honest. Yeah, and we'll like basically the problem with the tube, the viewers don't know. So just like any soft plastic, it's going to, when you get the bite and you set the hook, the potential for that tube to come down from the eye of the bait over the hook, the keeper, it's going to ball up on the shank of the hook on your hook point. And you're going to have them on for a second, and it's going to come off, and you're going to reel your bait in, and that tube is all balled up and twisted, big plastic sitting on the end of your hook point. And you never got a hook in them. That's just notorious for tube fishing, especially when you're flipping. Obviously, if you're throwing them for smallmouth, it's a little different. You got an open hook. But you know, that Fletcher has taught me so much about just a tube in general. You know, going back, we're both from Ohio. He's really implemented that a lot, you know, over the years. I feel like his setup is like the perfect setup for us. Like, I emulate him a lot. So the biggest thing for me with a tube, especially that tube, and we can get into why I like that specific tube. It's not too big of a tube. You a big hunk of plastic, you're asking for trouble, right? So it's a medium thickness. It's not too soft. It's not too hard. And I like a straight shank hook when I'm flipping a tube. A lot of guys will go to an EWG, which is fine. Everybody's different. You do what you can get 100% of the fish in a boat to do. But for me, I like that straight shank flipping hook. It's got a big bite to it. So even if that bait does ball up, you have a chance, right? You have a fighter's chance of getting a hook in them. And that's what I do a lot. Never use the EWG. And really using braid to fluorocarbon when I'm flipping is a big deal. So to me, again, this is like golf, right? Everybody uses different clubs, and that's what fishing really is like, whether it comes to your rod, reel, setup. But when I flip, I use 40-pound spider wire Durabraid to 25-pound Berkley tri-link fluorocarbon. I use about an 8-foot leader, 8 to 10 foot, give or take, 7 to 10 foot leader. I tie it with an Alberto knot, nothing crazy.
So you're not FG, huh?
No, I don't believe in that crap.
Wow.
I put it this way. No, listen,
Dude.
You tie a good knot, it won't fail you. Now, I believe,
amen.
If you tie, like the Alberto knot it's a bit, like they say, it's a bigger knot. Dude, it goes through your guides. It's fine. You know what I mean? And it doesn't take me 8 minutes to tie it. And if I really need to, I can retie it in the tournament. You know,
Right.
So But it never fails me. If you tie it right, that knot's on. And I'm using a 711, Abu Garcia Hunter Shryock flipping stick, which is, it's more like a medium heavy. They call it a heavy, but it's a more or less a medium heavy, just real parabolic action. It's got some backbone to it, but really parabolic. And what happens when you add that braid to the fluorocarbon, it essentially is like flipping straight braid. The great thing that you get about it is the abrasion resistance from the fluorocarbon. So when I'm flipping wood, you don't flip wood, or at least I don't flip straight wood, wood with straight braid, right? The braid's going to cut into the wood, and the worst thing that can happen is it cuts into the wood. The fish is sitting there with slack line, he comes off. Where fluorocarbon, 25-pound fluorocarbon, huge diameter, it's not going to get wedged into stuff as much, and it'll slide and slip over that wood. But when I set the hook, it is a straight line. There is no, hardly any stretch. You get a little stretch from the leader, it can be completely out of position. Like whether, wherever that fish bites, and I can go from here to here. There's no, now there's times when you'll see me, I'll reel down and hit them, especially when they're coming to me. But when they're sitting there and I feel them, just got them every time. It's no different than using a spinning rod, catching smallmouth on a drop shot. You got that straight line pull. And when I do that with that flipping hook, that big flipping hook, more times than not, even if that bait gets balled up, it's got such a good, with the braid, a strong set, it's going to penetrate them. If I go straight fluorocarbon, I feel like I have to be perfect, and I have to, hit them exactly perfect to be able to drive that hook point in. So that's just one thing I like to do. A lot of people don't do it, but that's just me. But also, if you like to set the hook hard, you'll probably break that setup eventually. Like you're going to get to the point because it is, so much torque on that leader. So to me, that fits my style.
Your rod has to match it for sure.
Correct.
Right?
And that's where everybody's different. Figure out the system that works for you, that you're landing 10 out of 10. Because you can be really, really, efficient and good with a tube. I like that tube because it holds the hook point and the barb, so it's not coming out a bunch, because that's the other thing about a tube. Like you're just constantly trying to fix it on your bait. And and like a jig, like a lot of guys were catching on a jig, but I also know that time of the year there's like a switch, like where they go from that jig to soft plastic. And it
was last weekend on the Chesapeake Bay, by the way, and I missed it, but Pete found it yesterday. So that was it. It was, I know what you're saying.
Just switches. I don't know why, but it's like they go from totally eating it and destroying it to being like they're off of it. And I didn't want to be caught in that middle either. But again, I only had like a handful of bites in practice, so I wasn't going to question what I was getting bit on.
I got another question for you about the setup, Pete. Let me just sneak this one in here. Is the 8-foot leader, is that pretty much like your standard leader that you run? And like running that 8-foot leader, it makes sense to me, because like if you were running a foot long leader and you pitched into a tree that's 3 feet to the bottom, you're still going to have braided lines. So, right. So you want that longer leader. How many guides on your rod does that leader not come in? Like how many guides does it click through on the way out?
Like when you reel it up to make another pitch?
Yeah, when you reel it up to make another pitch, because like 8 foot is a little longer than your rod and wingspan and all that.
Yeah, so basically, I'll tie it up, and I've got about the first 3 guides on my rod. I'll reel that line up to, and it not come down in, and then I'll take my line and I cut it at the reel handle. So that's about 10 foot probably, because it came back in. So somewhere around that 8 to 10 foot. So then when I go to flip, that knot is probably getting real. It's not in my reel. It's real close. Okay. It's real close, because most of the time, you got your line out, you're pitching, the bait's out. I'm never feeling it on my thumb. But that is the worst thing you could possibly have happen, is flip into a tree. And I've done this before, a deeper tree, let's say it's 12 feet or whatever, but you've pitched the end of it, and now that knot gets beyond a piece of wood, you're screwed. Like, because as soon as that knot hits that wood, it's going to wedge itself in it. And so you got to kind of fish it appropriately to what cover you're using. You don't want to get that knot. As soon as that knot gets stuck in there, like, that fish is going to try, it's going to have so much slack, it's going to come off.
Right. So it's almost like when you pitch in, if your knot stays somewhere, relatively speaking, like in that surface level, like surface of the water, you're good.
Correct.
If it's
correct.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you don't want it going down beyond the cover for sure. But heck, most of the time I'm never fishing more than 5 feet deep, relatively, when it comes to that stuff. But it's just something you want to definitely keep in mind. If you are fishing deeper, you can make a longer leader for sure. And then I do snell. I snell it, my hook too, on the knot.
Really?
Yeah, with the fluorocarbon, which is a little. It's not a pain, but it's like once you do it a couple times, you're good.
Mm-hmm.
But I think just a little bit of extra kick, supposedly. It doesn't hurt.
I got to. I want to look at some imagery. I'm sure you've got it out there on you rigging this, but because the question I wanted to go back to because with a snell knot and a tube, I just am amazed that you're able to efficiently do that without having to constantly touch it and fix
it. And trust me, I've used a lot of different tubes. I've tested just because you're trying to find one that's going to really hold up. And something about that material they have, like, it's not too thick, it's not too thin, but even the end of the tube isn't going to get torn. And when I rig it, I should have had some stuff, but it's pretty straightforward. You Texas rig a tube. But when I rig it, I'll barely, go in through the end of the bait and come back out really quick. It's not like I'm getting a real big bite on the head of the tube, if that makes sense. Because you're right, that snell knot, the way the line comes out, it's going to make it all look goofy, And I'm not even opposed to where the eye of the hook is even out of the tube and that weight clicks the eye. Like, I don't think you're sitting there staring at it, you know what I mean? But even where a little bit of it's hanging out, it's where that weight is clicking the eye of the hook. So that way, you 3.5-inch tube, it's not very big. Berkley Fusion 19 flipping hook, it reaches right where the appendages are, what you want to call them, tentacles.
Yep.
The squid arms of the tube. But yeah, it fits. Barely fits in there, but at least then I've got a big bite. So, I feel like one eats it, it's going to be able to cut out of it really quick. So it's interesting. And you're pegging that sinker or not? I do. Obviously I'll leave it a little bit depending on what cover I'm fishing. If I'm fishing, stuff that's more sparse or like some of those stand-em timber, I'll slide that peg up a couple inches. So that way it gives that weight some freedom. But, at the end of the day, you're going to get more bites unpegged compared to it being really, pegged down tight. So if I'm flipping a lay down though, it's got a bunch of those little branches, I'll tighten it back down again.
Interesting. Yep.
And it's like day 2, I had everything. I had like 3 flipping sticks rigged up. One was a half, one was a 3/8, and they were all like fairly heavy. Like I don't think I even retied them from practice just because I didn't think I was going to be doing much of it. And day 3, I'd put a quarter, 5/16, and then obviously the ones like a 3/8 up to a half for the deeper stuff. But if you can get away with that lighter weight, that bait's going to perform, in my opinion, a lot better, just because it has that natural slide to it that you really just don't get in many other baits. It's just a bite getter. And if you can flip that lighter weight, especially this time of the year, I feel like you're going to generate more bites.
Yeah, the glide, the erratic fall of that tube
Right.
is key. And I love this conversation because, you know, I missed a lot of fish this year on soft plastics, and I felt like if I went to braid with a leader, I would have probably executed on probably all of them that I missed this year, you know, and you come out of the gate throwing that, and that, you know, it you know, that's my own crap that I'm dealing with, but you're setting my game, and I appreciate that. And but
it's just a system for sure.
Take me to man, it's day 3. You're in contention at the Classic, going into with a chance to win. How did that feel? I mean, what was getting up on day 3 and getting hit in the water, man? You must have been over the moon, ready to go. Or where were you? Where was your head?
I mean, honestly, now looking back on it, I think we were so like in the zone almost, that especially like with what happened on day 2, it went from, and again, day 2, everyone looks at it like, oh man, you got lucky or whatever. Like you know, good thing you caught them. But in my mind, it was like almost like I wasn't expecting it, but it also wasn't like, oh my gosh, I caught him type of thing, if that makes sense. It didn't surprise me either way. Just because I've done that, you know, in the past, so many times I've seen it happen. So like going into day 3, I'm like, well, you know, I feel like I've really dialed it in. I don't think anything's really going to change. I just need to, you know, everything bites, I put it in the boat. Easton's got a huge lead, but we're also on a body of water that it's, you know, so tricky.
Anything
and I think everybody's like, oh man, you're going to have to catch 30 pounds in it. To me, I'm like, no, I just got to go catch what I've been catching. And I felt like if I land everything, I'm going to catch 25 to 28 pounds. Like that's pretty doable in my eyes on what we were fishing around. And I think everybody's in the same boat. Obviously, like you crack the bat 7 times, you're going to have 25 pounds. And so it was more just like, do your job. You can't control what everybody else is going to do. So it wasn't like I was super nervous or anything like that. I just knew that, you know, we had a totally different wind change. It was blowing out of, you know, I think it may have been the north that day, or it switched. So I just knew, you know, I had a chance to go, but possibly, you know, do something special, doing what I know how to do for 8 hours. So that I think I was probably just more excited about that than anything.
That's awesome. And then how'd it go? Like, how did day 3 transpire for you?
So yeah, we got started really quick, talking about losing fish. I ended up losing the first bite I got, but I think too, again, you're getting those fish that are spawning, you know, so they're nipping, they're not getting a bait, like you don't even feel the bite half the time, or you felt the bite and they dropped it. So I get the first bite of the morning and the fish is kind of coming at me, and you're flipping probably one of the worst situations you can get. If that joker bites and goes any direction besides forward, I'm probably going to catch him. But the moment that he's swimming straight at you and you got to drop your rod tip, pick up line to hit him, you know, you're toss up on whether or not you're going to get him in the boat. So that fish, I never saw it with my eyes, but knowing what I've been, that was another 4 to 5 pounder, you know, to start the day. But again, it's just like, it was a reassurance. Like immediately I told the camera guy, I said, I'm going to catch that fish later today. Like that was my mindset, because probably you'll roll back up to that tree at 2 and catch that fish guarding that bed again. Never happened, but we got started, I think 8:30, about an hour in, I catch a 4 pounder. And this is back in an area that I'd done caught 5s, 6, and 7s. And so I catch the 4 and I'm just like, okay, you know, it's going to happen, but it's not, nothing's going to be fast, right? Even though I feel like I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing. I fish all the way to the back back of it. I pick it apart really slow, methodical. I circle all the way back out to a tree that I just flipped 20 minutes before that. I fished the front of it, which obviously you fish the base of the tree. I pitch up there, it gets tight, and it's a 5-pounder. Doesn't look like a 5, but it is a 5-pounder. I'm thinking, I told the camera, I'm like, dude, I just flipped this tree 20 minutes ago. So I'm like really happy because you know what I mean? Because you're getting almost making there be more fish than what there is, if that makes sense, you know? So I'm like, dude, come this afternoon, how I catch them in here. And I fished in there, never had another bite. And I felt like 10 to noon, there's that lull. And we talk about that a lot. I talk about that a lot. Everywhere we go, it seems like there's always a window that they just stop biting. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit here and on this place because I need to find a fresh fish. So I left and fished new water that was really close to that area. And I'm glad I did that because I didn't want to look back and be like, why did you sit there all day? You know what I mean? Even though you know the fish are there, it's like you at least got to go check some other stuff. So I get to a shallow laydown that I hadn't had a bite on in practice because I mean it just fits the bill. Gin clear water at this point, you know, it's something that you couldn't see 3 inches down. And I pitch up there and I hang a 4-pounder and it's stuck in the tree and I get it out. So that was like super reassuring. And at that point, I got Robbie Floyd comes to me within like 30 minutes of me catching that fish. And I'm like, oh, shoot. You know what I mean? You get Robbie Floyd in the Bassmaster Classic coming to you at like, I think it was around noon. Yeah. And I just caught my 4th fish, which was like the 14-incher. I hadn't caught all the event, basically. I had to measure it. But he comes and I'm like, dude, yeah. And it's, going on 1 o'clock now, and I have to be back at 3. And I'm like, I got that area that I got to get back to because I wanted it to warm up as much as possible. I didn't want to fish it at noon. I wanted to be at the best place at the latest time that I had to fish it. And I obviously I could see it from where I was fishing, so I could make sure, no competitor or no locals were really fishing it, which was nice. And I get back in there and I ended up catching 2 more, and they were both like 3-pounders. And it almost surprised me that I didn't catch, 2 6-pounders or something. It just didn't happen. But I felt like my rotation and everything that I did that day, I don't have any regrets on, running new or doing anything like that, just because Ray Roberts was so tough to generate bites anyhow. Like you had to put yourself in an area that there was some bass. Like you knew there was a couple fish around. So if I could have, theoretically ran some other really isolated shallow stuff and potentially caught, 5-pounders, but I also could have not caught anything on them. I felt like it's a higher percentage that I wasn't going to catch anything on them than what it, with what I did. And I run all the way back to check in. I got 18 or so pounds, which at this point it's like, I didn't catch what I needed to catch. But I basically caught everything that bit but one, and that wouldn't have really made that big of a difference. And I get back to check in with like 10 minutes left to fish. Everybody's fishing because it's a classic. Like you're not going to check in early. And I idle all the way to the back and I pull straight up to a laydown. It's like my second flip right into the heart of this tree. And it's just mush hard. I set the hook and it's like 3.5, 3 3/4. I had to lift it out of the tree with the butt of my rod and put it in the boat like a crappie. And I'm just like, what just happened? We called, and that put me to 20 pounds on day 3 with like 8 minutes to go. Wow. So that was pretty cool, but it was a good day.
Yeah. What a great tournament. What a great experience.
100%.
Great finish. Classic, man. It's just to be in the hunt on the Super Bowl, going in, that was awesome. And especially Robbie comes up to you,
right. Yeah. And I'm just thinking like, dude, we still got the best part of the day. Everything up to this point was a bonus. And I felt like from noon to 3 was really when I was going to make hay. But I just think that area, I felt, probably caught most of the fish that were going to bite. And the funny thing is I would still see those fish. So like the tree that I caught the 710 out of on day 2, I pulled up to that tree. I think it was in the morning, and I pulled up, I scanned across it, and it's in 3 foot of water. And I scanned across it with my active target, and dude, there's like 3 giant dots at the base of this tree. And I went, oh my gosh, I just turned the trolling motor away and I just flipped up there. I didn't want to see anything because I know what they are. You know what I mean? I pitch up there and I'm just waiting like, dude, it's going to eat it. It's going to be another, 4 to 6 pounder. Nothing. And I go back, and that like 2 of them had peeled off, and here they come marching right back to the tree and sit down. And I'm like, yeah, carp don't do that. So the fish were still there. It's like, you're not going to catch them all. Like maybe Drew Bill probably would have cleaned that area out a little better than what I did. But at the end of the day, it's no different than seeing those fish on bed that you're not going to catch all of them. You know what I mean? Especially when you're blind fishing for them. So yeah, I did that a couple of times where I could see them, what I thought was a bass, and I'd pan off because I didn't want to know what happened.
That's awesome. Well, Hunter, congratulations on a world championship performance at the Classic.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I had fun.
Thank you for all you do for Bass University. We're thrilled to be working with you a little closer this year. And you're obviously a great instructor. What you taught us through this process, on how you're rigging your tube and managing your gear to increase your strike to catch is why you're such a great teacher. So I appreciate that very, very much.
No, thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me on. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, well, we enjoyed it too. We're going to do it again real soon. And good luck.
Now I got to go listen to the next. I got to listen to the next part of this deal. We got to listen to Dylan. He's the man with the hot hand. So
no kidding, he is red hot. Dylan Nutt is going to be coming on next. We're going to take a quick commercial break, and we're going to bring him on. And thanks again, Hunter. And we will see you soon. Good luck on the Carolina swing.
Awesome, appreciate it. I'll talk to you soon.
All right, thanks, buddy. Yeah, let's do a quick commercial break, and we're going to be back with one of the hottest young anglers in the business right now, Dylan Nutt. We'll be right back after this.
We're off the clock to clock more fish, to fill our live wells and empty our coolers, because there's more to explore. The latest Humminbird fish finders work fast, see clearly, and know all the best spots. They fish even smarter paired with the Minn Kota, and break down the water like never before. If you like your plans loose and lines tight, then it's time to explore. Only with Humminbird. Get right to the fight. New Mega Live 2 forward-facing sonar puts you on more fish with an ultra-clear, rock-solid picture of underwater action. Next-gen clarity, next-level fun. Only with Humminbird.
Right here, AquaView, mandatory equipment in my boat. I say it all the time. The smallmouths hide in the cracks in the rocks, and just saw a little bit of the same kind of rock with the cracks in it. And I realized that I had to put a bait down there. You wouldn't, idle over them and see them on your screen. You had to put a bait down there and suck them out of the rock. So, AquaView, big assist on this one.
And outdoors Bassmaster Classic champion,
Coffee. The angler's ritual. A reason to leave your cozy covers, even if you aren't headed to the river. We started Angler's Coffee because, well, we love to fish, we love coffee, and we care. Think of it as the rise before the rise.
traditional element rods, they're really Cashin's first launch kind of at a price point level. With that, we got a lot of feedback. And that's what brought about the Element Z2 in its launch. The most affordable American-made rod on the market.
Mother Nature may be tough. I'm tougher. I'll take you where chaos is the cost of entry and where the fish are worth the fight. Because the bigger the question marks, the better the quest.
Welcome back, everybody. I'm just thinking about we were using putting the Cashin Element to work just yesterday. And what an amazing rod. So go check that out, guys. If you're a member of Bass University, you get an amazing buying opportunity with Cashin rods through our pro member benefits. So go definitely check that out. And Riz, one of Jake's moments, I was with Jake yesterday. He's idling. We're working on teaching him how to put the boat on the trailer, so I'm back down. He's idling up to the trailer. We're at Havre de Grace. You know where that is.
Yeah.
But he's way out there and he's idling. He's like, Dad, the motor started vibrating real bad. And he was trying to figure out what was going on. He didn't know what to do. And that's because he was driving over sandbars as he was heading to the trailer.
Yeah. It's just polishing the prop, Pete. That's all. Just getting, making sure it's good and clean right along the edges.
Yep. You got to look at your hummingbird, son, when you're when you see that, feel that vibration, you're in the dirt.
Yep.
But you gotta learn those lessons. But really great interview with Hunter. Man, a lot of fun, incredibly knowledgeable, and really good insight on how he's rigging that system. So really cool.
100%, Pete. This evening, when we are complete with our everything else BU, I am rigging up a flipping rod with braid to a fluoro. I'm doing it. I've been thinking about it for too long. I'm doing it. It's done. It's happening.
Yep. I think it's a great I think it's a great way to flip. I'm worried about you a little bit because I know you're like you've got a hair trigger, and when that trigger gets pulled, man, you really have a powerful hook set.
Yes. So here's the thing, and we don't got to go too long on this. We got to get to Dylan, but so at the end of last year, we talked about it on the show, the break-off issues that I was dealing with. Well, I made an adjustment in my setup this year. At the beginning of the year, I dropped back from a 7.2 heavy action rod, flipping and pitching a jig, to a 7.2 medium heavy. Now, with fluoro, it's fine, right? I can still get the hook in them. But with that action on the rod, I think that the braid to fluoro will work well with it. And the reason that I want to try, Pete, is because for whatever reason, I have a better thumb with braid than I do with fluoro as far as backlashing in accuracy and just presentation.
Oh yeah.
I'm sold on it. I'm doing it. It's happening. I got to experiment with it, and now's the time. So,
well, I look forward to going through this process with you.
But
here's a young man that doesn't seem to have any holes in his game right now, and I'm excited to bring him on because he's won back-to-back Toyota Series. He's won a nation qualifier, and man, you're red hot. I'm thrilled to have you on the show, and it's a pleasure to meet you. Dylan Nutt is with us right now. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good. How about yourself?
Man, I'm doing all right. It takes me a long time to get those trophies. You're stacking them up like in a period of weeks. That's amazing.
Well, thank you very much. I've been blessed, to say the least.
It's fantastic. I know a lot of this has been going on the Tennessee River chain of lakes, and you seem to have or be very proficient on that waterway in particular. Where does that come from? You spend a lot of time on that water?
Yes, sir. Growing up in high school, We fished the Tennessee River a lot, Nickajack, Chickamauga, Watts Bar, Kentucky Lake every now and then.
Okay.
And then moving down here to college, I go to the University of North Alabama, and I mean we're 5 minutes from McFarland Park here on Pickwick, and 5 minutes from Wilson Lake. So we got a lot of Tennessee River around here. So that's mostly where I spend my time.
Well, it shows, right? It shows, especially on Pickwick, and these it's not only the winds, but the weights that you're bringing in are phenomenal.
Sure.
You're able to stack some pretty significant weights that aren't really put together that often. That comes from experience, and I guess it comes from also you're known as a forward-facing sonar specialist. Is that true?
One could say that. I've been using it a lot recently, but I also like to turn it off and go to the bank.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Talk to me about that. I noticed that one of your wins, you called out the Fritz side, and I was surprised to see that because I thought, just from what little reputation that I've been able to read about and see, there it is.
That's the one.
So you'll get to the bank, man. You'll turn that unit off. Talk to me about that.
Oh yeah. Everybody likes fishing, and a lot of people like forward-facing sonar, but I just like to catch them however they're biting. And if that's not using forward-facing, I'm completely fine with that. If that is using forward-facing, that's in my wheelhouse. I think it was 2 days ago, me and Carter and Bank Shaw. I don't know if you guys know them, but I mean we're all forward-facing sonar guys. And we went out here flipping on Pickwick and had 25 pounds, flipping a jig, turning the forward-facing sonar off, caught a big one on a chatterbait, on a flat, and that kind of stuff just kind of brings me back to my roots. And I love doing that every now and then.
Well, I think that's one of the biggest questions for people that are learning and trying to figure out how to marry these technologies with old school and new school. When do you turn it off?
Whenever you don't feel like you need to use it. Nowadays it seems like a lot of the tournaments are being dominated with forward-facing sonar, so some of them you kind of got to use it. But like right now, for example, in April, most of the fish are on the bank, so that's a great time to turn it off and just go back and just flip around a little bit.
Well, I think I appreciate the fact that you can do both, because it seems a lot of guys that have the reputation of being really good with their electronics kind of struggle on the bank, but it doesn't seem to be the case with you. Were you able to mix it up like on I guess we're talking about 3 tournaments that you've won recently. What would you say were they forward facing dominated? Were they old school dominated?
They were definitely forward facing dominated.
Okay.
Pickwick in the Bass Nation qualifier, not so much. A lot of the guys were catching them at the dam, throwing a swim bait and fishing current stuff and whatnot. But I was using forward facing in that tournament, and it seemed to be the way to have those mega bags.
Okay, and the Nation tournament was that was forward facing dominated for you. Take me through that. Like, what were your patterns? Where were you fishing in the lake?
So I was fishing kind of that, I would say mid lake, but I was in the river a little bit, kind of just like the river all the way down the lake. I just kind of had a milk run of places where I've had a lot of history, and that's kind of what I did the first 2 days. But the last day, I really had to switch it up. In practice, I actually stepped back a little bit. The first day of practice for that event, I was fishing I signed up late. I didn't know if I was going to do it, but the Bill Dance Giant Bass Open. So that tournament was day 1 and day 2 of practice. And I ended up winning that tournament with an 803, and I caught it my first day of practice. So the first time I'd been on the lake in a couple weeks, and, I wasn't able to get any information. And I caught that fish, kind of out there deeper in his wintertime pattern. And so I kind of got onto that. First couple days of practice, they're really heavy on their wintertime patterns. Out there deeper and kind of relating to those deeper drops and whatnot. But kind of as the tournament went on, we had a really warm week. The fish all shoved up shallow. They went to the bank, and so from the start of the tournament, I kind of caught a lot of them out there a little bit deeper on day 1 and day 2. But day 3, I had to go up to the bank, or just not necessarily the bank, but up there shallower, where those fish were pulling up and staging the spawn. And my co-angler that last day, it was before I even had a fish over 3 pounds. He caught a 5 and a 4 back to back on a jerk bait, like on the bank. He threw it up there, hit the bank, twitch it once, big one, hooked up. And he did that back to back, and I was like, dang, he's on him. And then I picked up a jerk bait for a cast or 2, and then I put it back down and kept going back to what I was doing. And then he catches another 5-pounder, like inches from the bank. And so I was like, okay, maybe I need to start moving up. And I ended up running some places that I hadn't fished in, over a year, and ended up having the stringer I had that last day, 23.5 pounds, just running new water. I caught them all late in the day. So that was a cool tournament for me, because I kind of had to adjust, from the start of practice to the end of the tournament. The fish were doing 2 completely different things.
Well, congratulations on making that adjustment. That was the nation qualifier?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And the next tournament was the Pickwick Toyota, correct?
Yeah, that one was actually before this nation tournament. That was February. This nation tournament was, I think, middle of March.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How did the Toyota series go down? Was that the deeper drop wintertime stuff you were talking about?
Yes, yeah, it was. A lot of the fish were out there kind of on the river channel or close to it. They were out there deeper. And I had a couple schools located too that were very, very key. I got some big bites out of throughout the week. And it was kind of cool. I had them all to myself, except for my twin brother Carter. He was fishing them on day 1, but then, I was up there. I think I was in 4th after day 1, and he was I think right outside the top 10, and so he decided to let me have all that stuff for the rest of the week. And he just went and ran new water. So that was really, really cool of him to kind of, lay off some of the stuff for me, because we've been fishing out here all winter, fishing the Pickwick Winter Trail. And, I mean, those tournaments are insane. I mean, if you don't have 30 pounds, you're not going to win. We actually finished second in one of them with 31 1/4. We were second.
Holy.
But we've fished the lake a lot together, so a lot of the same areas that we both like to fish. So
what's that deep water pattern look like? Like how deep are you? And like, are you targeting structure? Are you fishing floaters or?
Out here on Pickwick, you can do anything and catch them. You can catch some floating fish. You can catch them around structure, catch them around shell. And I really mixed in a mix of all 3 of them. I caught some floating fish, caught some fish off structure, and then some fish that are just set up on drops, and schools of fish, that kind of stuff. But I was mainly targeting the 10 to 25 foot range. That time of year in the wintertime, the fish will get down there really deep, especially out here on Pickwick. And that's something I like to target, because not a lot of people like to fish that deep out here.
I'm assuming you're pinging a minnow of some kind.
Yes, in that tournament, I was catching them on a minnow and a jerk bait. I was actually throwing this minnow. This one, it's a true bass. I think it's called the FF minnow, 5-inch and winter minnow. And then this is another one I like to throw, is the Scottsboro Tackle Company Viper Shad's what it's called. And it's a smaller bait. I like throwing it more whenever they're keyed in on the smaller thread fin.
Mm-hmm.
So like over at Chickamauga, I caught a lot of them on that, because they were kind of keyed in on the smaller thread fin. Versus over here on Pickwick, they eat a little bit bigger thread fin.
I got you. Okay. Well, all right. So you got a big win. You got 2 wins now on Pickwick, and now you're over at Chickamauga. And I guess when did that take place? That just
Yeah,
happened.
so the practice was actually the same time as the Bass Nation qualifier. So I got a day and a half of practice over there at Chick, and I've had some history over there, so I kind of had an idea of what was going on. But I went shallow most of the time in practice. I spent most of my time up one of the rivers, up in some dirty water, and I think the water was just too dirty, to be honest. And so I didn't stick with that pattern in the tournament. But in like the last 30 minutes of my second day of practice, I caught a 9-pounder, kind of up there shallower, staging up on a hard spot, moving back into the creek. So that kind of keyed me in on what some of the bigger ones were doing. And I caught that one on the Fritz side. So I was like, okay, maybe I can get up here and crank some of these shallower hard spots and get some bigger bites. And day one of that tournament, I started off in an area where there's a lot of bait fish. So there was a lot of fish swimming through them. And I had like 21 pounds in the first 30 minutes. So I decided to go start running around and practicing some more for the rest of the tournament. And I stumbled upon an area and caught a 6.5 and then an 8, and then I lost a 10. And so then that kind of keyed me into what the bigger ones were doing, in addition to the big one I caught the day before the tournament. And so day two, I went and I was running more of the bait deal, fishing around the thread fin and whatnot. And I had a tough start in the morning. I think at like 10 or 11 o'clock, I had 4 for 9 pounds. And then I rolled into the area where I caught some big ones and lost that big one the first day. And first cast on this hard spot, catch a 10, 11. And I was like, okay, that's a good limit filler. I went from 9 pounds to 20 pounds. And right after that, I catch a 6.5 and then an 8. And so then that second day, I had my 31 pounds with a 3.1 and a 3.2 in my bag. So that kind of hurt. I thought I could curl up a little bit more, but I was just beyond blessed to put the big ones that I did have bite in the boat that second day, because that really, those were game changing fish.
What type of area, or and what baits were you using for those big ones? Were those the crankbait fish, and what type of area were?
Yes, I was mixing it in. I would throw a crankbait up there. Sit way off of the point or hump or whatever kind of hard spot I was fishing. I would sit way off of it and throw my crankbait, and then after I figured that I'd thrown it enough times, then I would kind of sneak up there with my minnow and just throw it around. But that's where I would bring that minnow in and just kind of throw it around that Scottsboro Viper Shad. But then I'll just kind of target the ones individually with my forward facing with my Lowrance active target.
How deep were those fish?
They were anywhere from like 2 foot to probably 6 foot.
Okay.
Yep, they were pretty shallow.
Were you up in creeks or on main
I
river?
I was in the creeks, or at least the fish I had found were in the creeks. I know a lot of the guys were catching them on the main river, but that wasn't something that I got going for me.
Well, when you're catching 10 pounders on a pattern, I guess it clues you in that that's what you need to stick with,
Yeah, absolutely. And they were so close to a lot of the big ones out there on Chick. They spawn, at the end of March, early April. So I knew they were close to spawning. They were moving back in places. So I just kind of caught them where they were, kind of intercepted them where they were stopping before they went up there to spawn.
And they were just hard spot. Like, I guess, is the grass up there at this point?
There's a little bit of grass. I was fishing around a little bit of eelgrass, a little bit of milfoil every now and then. But for the most part, it was just those shell spots where they were just kind of
clean spots.
Yeah, just sitting there waiting.
Man, 2 feet to 6 feet is pretty shallow to be scoping them that way. Like, what's your keys to success? Working with that in that shallow water.
With the Lowrance Active Target, you got to mess with your angle offset a lot throughout the day. I'm sure it's the same on Garmin, but throughout the day, your scope will kind of like change how it's looking. So you go into the angle offset in settings, and you kind of mess with the settings to where you can stay looking up a little bit shallower, and so you can always see your bait hit the water versus where it's kind of looking down a little bit and you can't see, and then you throw out there and you never be able to see your bait until it's most of the way back to the boat.
What's that setting? Is there a setting inside of that setting? Because like on Garmin, it's called AHRS, and you can turn it on or off. And if it's on, it automatically controls the pitch angle. If it's off, you can manually control it. Does Lowrance have something similar to that?
Yes, they call it the angle offset. So you go into settings, and it's on like the main settings. You click sonar, and then you scroll down to angle offset, and then you can adjust it from there. I think.
Is there an auto feature on that on Lowrance, or no? Do you have to manually?
I think that there is, but it's never really worked good for me.
So you keep it on. Okay.
Adjust it manually. I normally keep it. A lot of the times, the negative, like I go from. It seems like at the start of the day, it'll be on like -8 or something like that, -5. And then throughout the day, you kind of got to bring it down up into like positive. Sometimes like -3 is good enough, but sometimes you got to go to like +3 or +5. Sometimes even +8. It just depends on how it's acting that day,
Gotcha.
And my transducer's old. I've had it for almost 3 years now, so it's been beat up. And I guess they don't like to act very good when they're like that.
That makes sense because I have to do a lot of that same stuff on my trolling or on my transducer, and it's definitely slammed into a lot of trees and dock posts and everything else. So it's all making sense now, Pete.
What's that now, Rick?
It's all making sense now.
Yeah,
with the forward facing.
It always amazes me that this. We're the old school guys like me like to just set it and forget it. And you've got to be on top of your adjustments to get the most out of what you're trying to accomplish. And it's very, very active process as you're describing. Talk to me about the weights. Like you're fishing that super shallow water with a minnow. You got to be using a super light weight, right?
I was using a 1/4 ounce.
Really? Pretty heavy.
It seemed like you just kind of had to bring it over their head pretty quickly, and then they just shoot up and grab it.
Okay, so speed was the killer.
Yep.
That's a sneaky little trick. We use speed a lot to trigger strikes, but we're so used to learning this this tactic. It's all slow, but man, burning it was the key to your success. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a little bit of it, and I mixed in some lighter weights, to try to get some of those ones that are a little more finicky to bite, but they didn't seem to want it too much.
Man, it's fantastic fishing, man. 3 tournaments in a row. What's next? Where's the next win you're gonna have here?
I don't know about the next win, but I may or may not be able to fish the Pickwick Slam that's this weekend. It's a college tournament. Me and Carter and Banks are fishing the Invitational that's out here in the beginning of May. So our cutoff for it starts on Saturday. But the cool thing about this tournament is I think that they're going to make it a trailered blast off, or trailered weigh-in, where you trailer to whatever ramp you want to put in. And for that qualifier, or for the Pickwick or Invitational, we're not allowed to go down to Bay Springs or go up to Wilson Lake. So I think we might be able to fish it if we can trailer up to Wilson or something like that, a place where we're not allowed to, or a place where we're allowed to fish during cutoff. So, of course, we still got to talk to Kevin Hunt and whatnot, see what he thinks about that. But I don't know that there would be a problem because we wouldn't be breaking any rules, But I don't know.
sounds logical to me. I mean, if they're not available tournament waters, they should be open for you to compete in. That's hopefully you get to do that. Where are you going to go? Bay Springs or Wilson?
Wilson's been on fire here recently, so I might go up there, go throw a swim bait around the dam, and probably run into some big smallmouth up there, or even some big largemouth.
Or is the spawn happening there yet?
Yes, it's just starting. For sure. They've kind of shut off the amount of current they were running through the dams. They've been pulling anywhere from 40,000 to 150,000 all spring. So the fish, when they're pulling that much water, they don't spawn very good at all. And they've been fluctuating the lake so much, but right now it's kind of stable. It might be rising a couple inches, every day or two. And they're only pulling about 8,000. So I'd imagine that the fish will be spawning really hard this week.
Interesting. Well, you're doing well in the Toyotas. You're doing an invitational. You're in the college series. How are you? What are your plans? I mean, it's got to be a pretty complex scenario. Do I fish the college programs, or am I ready to step up? Where's your head at with this stuff right now?
Right now, I'm definitely wanting to step up a little bit. Fish Toyota series, maybe some invitationals if I can.
Mm-hmm.
But the ultimate goal is definitely to fish the opens and try to qualify for the Elite Series. That's been my dream as long as I can remember. Especially growing up watching the Bassmaster, the old videos they used to put on YouTube. Those were, just listening to the intro to it just kind of gives me goosebumps, of how long I've been dreaming of that stuff. And, I'm kind of setting myself up to where that could be a possibility. But I'm definitely going to try my hardest to make it doing something, something in the fishing world.
That's really cool to say that.
I definitely still want to fish some college stuff, because coming down here to the University of North Alabama, that's probably the best decision I've ever made. We're right here we've got like 7 or 8 different lakes, within an hour drive, and they're all very different fisheries. We got the Tennessee River. We got Smith Lake right down the road. We got, you can drive up into Tennessee and you got places like Tim's Ford or, those Highland reservoirs. So you can really hone your craft on just about any type of fishery.
All of it.
And on top of that, the school pays for us to travel. So we get to go to all these different lakes all around the country. And we're fishing against literally, the next Elite Series guys or Bass Pro Tour guys like Easton Fothergill. We were fishing against him last year, and now he's a classic champion on the Elite Series. So, we really have the best competition, and that's the best way to learn, in my opinion, is to fish against the best fishermen. And, you get to talking to them at the different tournaments, and by the end of each tournament, you kind of feel like you know exactly what you needed to do that week to catch the biggest fish in the lake. And it's just been an unbelievable learning experience, to say the least.
That sounds like a great team. How does your team? Do you guys work together? Do you guys strategize for upcoming tournaments together, or do you have it, or are you more like just work with your team partner? How do you guys prepare for tournaments at your school?
So we definitely we got a little group of guys. Not everybody shares, but there's a group of guys down here that we share, what we're doing, and we'll talk to them during practice and be like, we've gotten bites doing this, or this kind of seems to be the deal, and then we all just kind of work together and figure out where the big ones are. But there's it's just cool to be able to talk to other anglers that are some of the best in the world, and just kind of hone what's going on. But we definitely don't share, like, we don't have waypoints from previous guys that came here where they're like, oh, here's where we got a top 5 in this tournament. We don't have anything like that going on. But we definitely share a lot of information.
And you get to fish a lot, and that's fantastic. I mean, you've moved so quickly through the ranks here. Would that be your key to success? Is just a lot of time on the water, or how did
100%.
you get here so fast?
100%. And, you know, my generation, especially, you know, the people that are exactly in my generation, we had COVID, you know, growing up. So there wasn't really a lot of stuff that you could do during COVID. So what me and my twin brother Carter would do is we most of the time wouldn't go to school because they didn't have it mandatory at the time. They were like, you can come if you want to. If not, we get it. COVID's a thing. So, you know, we kind of played into the, you know, we're scared of COVID. We can't come to school. And we would go and
I love it.
Most of the days we would have some jobs to go do. We did a lot of landscaping, just kind of getting on Facebook or they had an app called Nextdoor where you could post in there and get jobs around the city. So we'd go and work and then we'd go to the lake right afterwards. I mean, gas was I think like $1.80 or something like that. So it was really, really affordable to be able to go fishing every single day, and that's what we did. We tried to go every single day and try to learn something new every day and go to all different kind of lakes because I'm from Nashville, so we got river systems. You know, we were about 2 hours from just about every lake on the Tennessee River from where we were. So we could go to the Tennessee River and experience that, or we could go Highland reservoirs like Dell Hollow or Center Hill or Tim's Ford, something like that. And then we got, you know, the Cumberland River was right there. It was probably like 20 minutes from our house. So we spent a lot of time on the Cumberland River too, you know, fishing current and whatnot. And, you know, we just kind of got a good taste of a little bit of everything growing up and kind of learned how everything works.
Man, that's a lot of fishing. And
Yes.
that's the thing that COVID played such an important role in being able to help you get on the water that way.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and it's great use of your time. Obviously, I mean, you used it wisely to be able to, and that's something that's awesome because a lot of guys go out to catch fish and have fun, but to go out with intent to be learning and growing as an angler is really a big deal, and you got to be proud of yourself, you and your brother both, for, you know, making sure that was part of your practice strategy.
Oh yeah.
But so you've scored big, got 2 big wins. You've got the capabilities to fish the opens next year. So do you think next year is going to be the year that you do it, or do you think you're going to wait till school's over? What do you think?
I'll probably wait until school's over. But you never know. I might change my mind at the end of summer. But I'm probably going to wait until school's over, at least to do that stuff. But I'll probably fish a lot of the Toyota Series events next year. Because, I mean, I've fished 2 Toyotas, the Chickamauga one and Pickwick, and I think those are my favorite tournaments I've ever fished. They're ran so good. Mark McGraw, he does an amazing job over there. And they're just some cool tournaments. I think I might go try and fish some of the northern ones this summer, and just kind of get a taste for up there, because that's the one place I haven't really been is up north.
Well, that'd be a great opportunity. I know the tournament trail is run well, and they're at the Potomac, they're at Champlain and Thousand Islands this year. So those are great bodies of water that you're sure to visit on, you know, any of the upcoming tournament trails, you know, on the national level. So that'd be a great experience for you for sure. But I think it's great that you're focused on school, man, and you're doing so good. I mean, I don't know why you don't fish all the Toyotas. You just keep winning them, keep going, and keep at it. What are you studying in school?
I'm a geography major, so that's kind of cool. It gives me access to some mapping systems, you know, where you can go back and see what the lake looked like before it was a lake, and, you know, just cool stuff like that. my twin brother Carter, he's a marketing major, so we kind of got the best of both worlds, kind of learning from each other.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, those old historical maps have you put them to work on the Tennessee River, finding some cool stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah,
that's great. That's interesting, and I really appreciate that you like looking at the old Bassmaster. It sounds like the old Bob Cobb Bassmaster events are what drew you in. We still.
Oh yeah, they were ran so good then, and it was like there was so much anticipation built up to the weigh-in, versus where now they got Bass Track and Live, so I mean exactly who's going to win, without having to go to weigh-in. But then it was like you saw people catch fish, but they wouldn't tell you how big they were most of the time. And then just the excitement of watching a weigh-in is just something else. It's something that I just feel like you don't have anymore watching fishing nowadays, because everything's so publicized that not everybody has that excitement anymore, because they can watch the lives and look at the Bass Track and see exactly what's going on. And so they're like, why do I need to go to weigh-in?
Yeah, and that's true a lot of the times. It was true at the Classic, I think, this year, because Easton just ran away with it. But the Bill Lowen win on Lake Okeechobee, that was an amazing weigh-in.
Oh yeah,
came down to ounces. Nobody knew who was going to take that one home.
Yep. Those tournaments are really cool to watch.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm just impressed. I think everybody is. Justin, of course, Justin Harant brought this to our attention. We got to have this kid on. He's red hot right now, and I'm excited to see what you do next. And I'm appreciative of you coming and spending a little time with us here at Bass U.
Yes, sir. Thank y'all very much for having me. It's been an experience. I've got to see Bass University for a long time, and to be on here is just, it's a crazy feeling.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that we've had something to do with this great success. That's awesome to hear. And
oh yeah, that's how I learned growing up was watching YouTube videos, and Bass University was a big part of that. Getting to see all the big name pros on there talking about their specialties, and just getting to learn that stuff is just really cool.
Well, we're glad to have you part of that program. We'll send you over a link so you have full access to Bass University moving forward as you go down the road here. And thanks so much for being with us, buddy. Congratulations again, and we look forward to seeing your future success.
Thank you very much.
All right,
thanks, John.
Everybody, what a great deal, Rich. Oh my gosh, how do you win so much so fast?
Well, he's laid himself in the right frame and the right groundwork, that's for sure, by spending a ton of time on the water and going to North Alabama. North Alabama has been known to produce some outstanding fishermen for all the reasons that Dylan said. I mean, it offers you everything. I mean, you can be, on the Jesse Wiggins Foundation fishing Lewis Smith, where he dominated for so many years. But Jesse Wiggins is such an amazing angler because right down the road from him is another fishery that offers something completely different and another way to hone your skill. So when you fish those circuits that run through that portion of North Alabama throughout the year, you're going to see all of those different types of fisheries that that can craft such amazing anglers like Jesse Wiggins and Jordan Lee and Matt Lee, and the list from that region just goes on and on and on and on. And it seems like this young man's on the same track to doing so. He's exposing himself to all those bodies of water, fishing against some really good anglers, and he's fishing a lot. That's the key.
Fishing a lot and putting himself in with the tough competition, and that's an important part.
Yes.
Too. And you're, like I just talked with Brooks Parker. He's at University of Montevallo and North Alabama. All those schools out there that's where you want to get good at, right? Because that's where all the tournaments are.
Exactly.
80% of your events are going to be on that Tennessee River, Alabama, Georgia, Texas too, so
Right.
that's where you want to train most of the time. And it's cool that Dylan's going to come up north and get a little bit of an exposure to the northern bodies of water, and you need that too. But you're only going to go north 10-20% of the time on a professional tournament trail. So he's right. Him and the kids like him down in that part of the country are right where they need to be. To set themselves up for great success.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great stuff, man. Two amazing anglers. And we are really pleased to have him on part of Bass University. It was really exciting to hear that he's a Bass University person as well. So that's very cool. We just got back from the Classic. Once again, I want to thank everybody for coming by and seeing us at the Bassmaster Classic. Take advantage. If you're not signed up right now, I think Dylan, maybe he put you over the top, but we have the Classic special still in effect right now that's going away real soon. So take advantage of that. Great opportunity to get involved with Bass U right now. And what else we got going on? Justin, are you there? Come on and say hello.
What up, fellas?
What up?
That's a great hit. That's a great call.
Yeah, we got some other stuff going on real quick. First things first, I just want to let everybody know that tunes in every week. I, in fact, did dominate in the fantasy fishing at the Bassmaster Classic.
I don't know.
Boy.
I don't know if I'd call it dominate, but
well,
you are in the lead. We'll give you that.
Let's just say my lead has grown substantially since the last tournament. And I did, in fact, pick the winner to win. So extra points for that.
Yeah,
but,
you do. You get points. Riz, you were dominating in fantasy there up until day 3. You were crushing it. Your picks red hot, but Justin's picks caught and passed you there right on day 3.
I use up all my picks during seminar speaker selection time back in the winter. When it comes time for fantasy, I'm just out. I just all my picks are already picked. But it was really great to see again this year having some of our Bass U instructors that we just worked with a month before in the classroom in the top at the Classic, like Lee Livesey and Hunter Shryock, and just seeing our guys perform, doing their thing, doing what they're good at, why they've been instructors with us and why they've taught with us so many times. It's really, really great to see that. So yeah, but good job, Justin. You are continuing your run in fantasy.
Man, I'm hoping by this time next year I have a nice crisp $10 bill hanging up back there. That's all that's on my mind right now, man.
Yep. High stakes game.
That's right.
Shout out to N. Welter, S. Mosby, and B. Brown, 1, 2, and 3 in the Bass University fantasy fishing program. Somebody's going to win a really cool Bass University gift pack. But you guys, oh man, they're killing it.
Sub of the week this week, PG. Here you go.
There he is.
At the Classic. Pete searched out and found this young man that was rocking the Bass U hat. And I'm going to put you on, I don't remember his name. I doubt you do either, Pete, but shout out to this young man rocking the Bass U hat.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We saw some great folks that have been, that we've given out Bass U hats to over the years, but it was really cool that some of the Bass University or some of the Bass Nation youth members for the New Jersey youth were there. Some Bass U colors, some people that we know well. We saw at Media Day, so that was cool. That was a lot of fun, and we had fun doing our talking to all the anglers that are at the Media Day. A lot of that stuff has been out on social, including the 50,000 times you watched me fall in the water again.
Yes.
Yep. I had to come up with a new way just to show a couple more people you falling in, Pete.
Yep. It doesn't stop. I was fishing yesterday. I only ran into one angler on the water, and he quickly reminded me of how enjoyable it was to watch me fall in. So can't get away from it. It's good stuff. But we had fun. Me and Jake were out fishing yesterday. Jake, shout out to Jake for winning. Jake and Max Hugan won their the high school nation tournament with a 10-pound stringer. They were challenged with some tough conditions up there. And shout out to Vegas, Ike, who won the youth division with 19, just under 20-pound bag.
Jeez.
For his tournament up there. So yeah, it was tough because between those two winners of both divisions, there was not very many fish caught other than that. So
how much weight did they have? Did Max and Jake have?
10 point something.
Oh, okay. Did they have 4?
They had 4 fish.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Gotcha.
5th fish on, but they lost it. That's all they had. They had 5 bites executed on 4, and that's the first tournament of the season. So starting out with was pretty big deal for us. We had fun doing it, and
man,
Jake,
that looks like more than 10 pounds.
That's why I just asked. I thought I misheard you.
No, they were all 2.5 pounders. Those boys are pros at maximizing the size of fish and how to hold them. They're getting good.
So.
Yeah, even tricked me.
They even tricked you. That's saying something, Justin.
Sure is.
Man. Or maybe it's the photography. I don't know.
Good picture too, though.
Yep. It was all for them. It was all vibrating jigs and one fish on flipping casting a jig. But all their
that Kyle Patrick video you sent Jake from Media Day, did that play a role in this victory?
It did.
Nice.
It did. They locked that particular color and jig in their hand. They tried to do a repeat. If anything, I think what we caught up and the boys got a little bit caught up in, even though it's hard to criticize a win, but we got caught up in last year's patterns and locations.
Yeah, right.
We failed to keep practice in our tournament.
Yeah.
And that comes from me. I'm dinging myself on that as coach. That we didn't have much preparation time for this tournament, and it's how important that is to keep an open mind, look at the water with fresh eyes every single time, and I think we got a little pigeonholed in where we caught them last year, and that hurt us a little bit as far as maximizing our weight. So we're going to learn from that. We got another tournament coming up on Assunpink. Jake and I were out training, flipping and pitching training. We were just out in the boat yesterday. Jake was off from school and took advantage of a beautiful day out on the Chesapeake. And Jake's working on his trolling motor skills and his flipping and pitching. That's going to be his thing, guys. I'm telling you right now. Like, he can catch them. He's getting proficient in a lot of different things. But, man, when he's got a flipping rod in his hand, I guess he's like his dad. He tends to have a good shot at catching some big fish. So we're gonna keep him working on that technique and try to keep him from grinding my Yamaha into the dirt as much. And
that's okay. It's good for it.
Yeah, it's tough. It needs to be. Dad, why is the motor vibrating so much when I was coming up to the trail? Well, it's rocks and sand and gravel, But we may jump into I'm going to talk with Jake this afternoon, but the Chester County tournaments, we're likely going to jump into them. It looks like they might fit into our schedule, and Jake and I might participate in that this year. I'll keep you guys posted on it, and we'll.
You can sit it out, Pete. It's all good.
Well,
take my lunker money again.
Yeah, well, we're going to try to take the lunker money, but based on our day of practice yesterday, I don't expect that. I don't expect any lunker money coming our way. But you know, a lot of males running around the bay. You know, a lot of smaller fish that we're seeing. That I've only been on the water for one day this year, so it's really hard for me to comment about that. But you know, we
big girls are moving.
Yeah, them big girls are gonna. They're probably still a couple of weeks seeing them. I still think they're out following those stripers around. You know,
they're hanging out in the channel, and I'm gonna find them.
Yep, you need to go out there and look for them. We're leaving you in charge. Keep us posted.
I got enough time, man. Not enough hours in the day to find those freaking things.
That's the truth. Might not be enough hours in a year.
I know, man. I know, but
you know, and I know we talk about this body of water that we all love so much, but man, the water looked good. It was clean. It was everywhere. It looked good. I mean, the only thing that was hampering it was the wind was massive on us yesterday.
Right.
So muddy water where the wind was, you know, blowing hard. But other than that, the water coming out of the rivers were clean and clear.
Yeah, it's gonna muddy up though.
What'd you have for water temp, Pete?
As high as in low 60s in places. You know, wow. The Susquehanna River was touching 60 degrees. You know, it was real close to the high 50s coming out of the river. So yeah.
It's gonna cool down some. All this rain we got yesterday.
Yeah.
Coming out of the river.
You guys get a bunch in Pennsylvania, Justin?
Yeah.
Because we didn't get that much right here on
really?
The shores.
Okay.
No. Red Point's pretty dry. I gauge it off of that. Of, you know, if the roads are real bad. I mean, it rained hard for like an hour last night, but it wasn't super substantial. It wasn't like an all night downpour.
Yeah, it was probably a 3 to 4 hour raining sideways here.
Yeah, so you guys got it. Yeah. Well, we'll see. It's time to start calling the Conowingo. See what the flow is.
We might have to hit up Dylan and get, you know, some old geography maps, the Chesapeake from 20 years ago or something, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like that was a sneaky thing he said, you know, with Pickwick and stuff. That's
house foundations.
Yeah.
Yep. Old docks, old wharfs, you know, like offloading stations.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of stuff. There's 200 years of history on the waterways we fish.
100%.
You know, there's got to be some old structures out there that we're missing.
Oh yeah.
But you know what I'm most interested about? I want you to document your progress through your new braid to fluoro leader strategy, Rick.
Yeah, I'm gonna definitely do it. I get myself so frustrated because the littlest bows in my fluorocarbon just drive me nuts on my thumb.
You're gonna have to bring that hook set back a little bit with that setup.
I brought it back with the rod though. I brought it back with it's a medium heavy rod.
Yeah, but you're losing stretch regardless, even with the medium heavy. You know, you don't want.
I mean, believe me, I can't freaking drop the shoulders down and I get it. I get it.
And you might have to go to have to go to an FG as well. Cause when did we have Hunter in Alabama? 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Those at that point, that flipping rod he was using, they don't have any really micro guides, so I think you can get away with that Alberto knot on there.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're going heavier line, you might have a little tougher time with the micro guides on the cashins up top. You know what I mean?
Right.
My solution for that is I only go with a 4-foot leader.
Yeah.
And I use the medium guides. I always go for the medium guides so that it can go through there. But
right.
That's always been my solution for it. I don't like that knot in the guides. But
I love it, man. I love flipping with the braid to a leader. I don't like having another knot that could potentially fail. Not that it ever has for me. It never has failed.
Yeah.
I'm with Rich. I love feeling the braid. I feel like I feel better, everything like that. It scares me.
I've used it for years, and I don't know. I get away. It just depends on the habitat that I'm fishing, and I've never had a failure with it. But the hookups are sure, and that's a really nice. I mean, that's the ultimate test, right? We want to get the fish in the boat, and
100%.
I'm excited to see the first bite Rich gets.
Yeah,
I just want to see. I don't know how you're gonna hold back. I've felt the boat shake when that trigger gets snapped. Rich.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. It definitely. I have been more conscious, even just this year, fishing with fluorocarbon, about the hook set. Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see how things go.
Good. Well, keep us posted, guys. Yeah. We're gonna be back next week. Is there anything else, Justin? We good?
No. Long show. Thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yep. Thank you very much. We'll see all you guys next week with another episode of Bass You Live. Have a great day, everybody.